Welcome to Our English. I am Priscilla Ramcharan here in the United States, and we are back with Clear Strategy Company. So, welcome and please share a little about yourself and your path to sustainability.
Hello, Priscilla. It's wonderful to be back with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name's Jo Anne Schwendinger, and I might have shared this with you before, but I'll just tell you that I come from a background in the law. So I'm a 30-plus year veteran of corporate law, and that includes a stint as the Chief Legal and Compliance Officer of a public company. And in my years of corporate practice, I had hands-on experience early on with CSR, corporate social responsibility, and then with ESG, primarily from a governance perspective and investor relations perspective in my stint at the public company. And I started Clear Strategy Company in 2022 after I retired from the practice of law, because I know that ESG holds the keys for looking at business differently. And that's because ESG promotes a company having multiple success factors in addition to financial performance. It also widens and focuses the lens for risk management, and it requires a company to think about all the stakeholders that contribute to a company's success and that are impacted by the company. And it doesn't narrowly focus on shareholders alone.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so happy to have you back. Congratulations for so much that you've accomplished so far with helping companies to really understand the value and importance of maintaining that sustainability. And what better hands to be in than yours? So,
Thank you,
Joanne,
Priscilla.
you're welcome. Is ESG something new?
No, actually, it has several antecedents that came from a variety of places, potentially. And I haven't done a study of this, and I'm certainly not a Judaic or Islamic legal scholar, but I do know that the laws of both of those strains have rules for conducting business that take into account a stakeholder view. For example, how to treat workers generally, and then specifically how to treat child workers. And then if we fast forward from the Judaic and Islamic tradition to more contemporary times, more modern times, we find faith-based and socially responsible investing in the US. Certainly there are records of it in the 18th century when Methodists taught against investments in companies that made liquor or tobacco products. And later on, fast forward even more, later on came corporate social responsibility that I mentioned earlier. And then getting specifically to ESG in 2004, so nearly 2 decades ago, the
Yeah.
UN, the United Nations, published a report that was called Who Cares Wins. And that report made what's considered the first mention of ESG. And then in 2006, the UN also published another report called the Principles for Responsible Investment. And the work on the PRI, the Principles for Responsible Investment, continues to this day.
Wow. So this has been around for some time now. So this is really great that I have this opportunity to speak with you. I really appreciate this information. Um, so Joanne, are there companies that wouldn't benefit from using an ESG approach?
Well, clearly my answer is going to be no, but let me give you what I hope are three compelling reasons. And let's think back to the three factors I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
starting with multiple success factors. Every business that I know of needs multiple success factors. It needs financial success for sure. A business needs financial success for sure, but it also needs success with its employees because every company has them. It needs success with supply chain. It certainly needs success with customers. And that stakeholder view, looking at customers, suppliers, and a variety of stakeholders, is a discipline that is brought to us by ESG. It also helps with risk management, and every business has to manage risks. And it helps to have a framework, and ESG brings a framework for identifying and managing material risks. And finally, there's the stakeholder perspective that I've already talked about.
Hmm.
All businesses have stakeholders that the business impacts and that have an impact on your business results, and stakeholders at the heart of ESG.
Right. So it's a cycle. One depicts the other, one benefits from the other, and then it comes full circle for you.
Absolutely, which is reflective of the holistic nature of ESG based businesses and ESG based business planning.
Good, good. Excellent. Well, you have a new book out, correct, called The Path
I
to
do.
Sustainability. Congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, who should read your book and why?
Well, I think my obvious answer is everyone.
Of course.
but seriously, I thought of at least four groups, and these are pretty broad when you think about it. So the first group is anyone who in business who wants to learn more about how to identify and build a strategy around those multiple success factors I've been talking about, and how to identify and engage with the stakeholders that I've been talking about, and I'm sure you can guess the third one, how to identify and manage important ESG risks. So anyone who wants to do those three things is in my first bucket. My second bucket is businesses that either have a strategic planning process in place already, or maybe they're just getting started and want to build sustainability into their planning process. The path to sustainability, I think, can help with that as well. And then another bucket number three, is businesses that want to dig a little deeper and think
Hmm.
about ways that stakeholder-centered design principles can result in better product development outcomes for the company and for stakeholders. And I devote a whole chapter to sustainability, human-centered design principles. And then finally, anyone who would like to know how to cascade an ESG informed strategy throughout the organization, from supply chain to compliance to legal, because the book also talks about the importance of not keeping ESG cloistered in a circle that is fenced off from the rest of the organization. It really needs to be a part of all parts of the organization. So the book talks about how to engage and cascade information throughout the entire organization.
Excellent. And I was going to ask you if you went into details about this in your book. So you answered my question, and I will put the link to your book in the description box so our viewers can have an opportunity to see more of your work and be able to reach out to you for further assistance with your services. And, I hate to just call it a service, it's so much more. It encompasses, you know, all of the aspects of keeping a business running successfully. Mhm.
And
Correct?
sustainably.
And
And sustainably.
sustainably. Perfect.
Right.
Yes. This is amazing. So you mentioned the supply chain. How does ESG benefit supply chain leaders?
Well, for me, the primary benefit, Priscilla, is in providing a lens for identifying and managing risk opportunities that arise in the supply chain. And since it's a team sport, ESG is a team sport that brings all parts of the business together, as I said a moment ago,
Hmm.
it also is an opportunity for bring together the buy side, procurement, and the supply chain, and the sell side as well. So there are those strategic advantages to the supply chain organization. And on the more practical side, it can also help companies avoid reputational damage,
Mm.
so they have procedures in place that ensures that they don't have suppliers who use child labor or
Ooh.
indentured labor, illegal
Mhm.
child labor or indentured labor. And then on a very practical and tactical level, it also calls on companies, in ESG discipline, calls on companies to engage with their suppliers as partners and have them, the result is for them to improve their efficiencies. And then if your suppliers improve their efficiencies, you get the benefit through better pricing.
Oh, wow. That's really eye-opening. Sometimes we don't think about all of the factors that play a role, the behind the scenes factors, where you mentioned, illegal child labor, that sometimes we don't consider because everything is at our fingertips here, but we don't sometimes
Well,
think about where it comes from.
and you're so right. There's so many ways in which our world is fragmented and
Mhm.
siloed. Everyone sitting at his or her own desk, everyone operating with his or her own within his or her own department. And it's often much easier only to focus on the thing that has to be done today
Mhm.
and the people you have to engage with during the day in order to get your job done. And that's completely understandable. And that's why I think it's helpful to have processes that really goad you into looking beyond your own walls. So, in the case of child labor that you mentioned, Priscilla, it helps because you may know as a business that you don't use illegal child labor, but the ESG focus on child labor as a particular issue requires you to look down and throughout your supply chain. It requires you to know what the practices are of the person who's selling to you, but what about the people that are selling to your supplier? Is there anywhere in the chain that ultimately starts with the elements that are put
Mm.
together to bring to make components that are eventually put together into your product? How well do you know? How well have you looked beyond the wall? And how well do you know what each of them is doing? And ESG encourages you to have that look beyond.
Wow, indeed, this is very valuable. I'm so happy you're here to share this information with us and, take my questions, although my vocabulary is still new, and that's why I'm reading your book so I can learn more. But thank you for your time. I have a few more questions. How
Okay.
can we build a diverse and inclusive culture that supports profitability and ensures a sustainable business?
Well, this one seems to be difficult for a lot of companies. And my answer to it, frankly, is just do it.
Hmm.
So if you start with diversity and inclusiveness as the proposition, ask yourself, how dedicated to that as a goal am I? And how convinced am I that diversity and inclusiveness are powerful business drivers, powerful business success factors?
Mhm.
And it seems to me that once you're really convinced, and by the way, to convince you, there is ever more evidence that is being brought to light that diversity and inclusiveness are not powder puff issues. They're not nice to haves. They're not soft issues, but they're hard business drivers. They're drivers of sustainable business success. And if you're convinced of that, if you've looked at the data
Mhm.
and buy the data, which you should do because the data is the data, then after that, once you're convinced, it should be easy for you to treat lists like anything else that's critical to your success, right? That's
Absolutely.
critical to your success. You assess where you are, how well you're doing currently. You make a plan to do better, find out where your gaps are, find a way to bridge them, have a plan to bridge them, put budget and resources behind your plan, and then in a little while, evaluate how you're doing and do it all over again. And you build your own business case as you experience your successes and you yourself experience the power of diversity.
Indeed, that really sounds powerful to me. That's the word that kept coming to my mind because if you want success, you have to pour yourself into your business or your passion, but also utilizing the proper tools that will propel you towards the success that you're looking for. So if you're, kind of not sure about where to go and what to do, there are resources like yours that can start that conversation.
Right. And as I said, when I started to answer your question, diversity, equity, and inclusion, diversity, inclusiveness seems to be elusive for a lot of companies. So you're in good company if that's the case for you. But for me, it really is like any other business goal. You
Mhm.
have to do it by being intentional. You're only going to achieve the goal by being intentional.
Agreed, 100%. Very nice. Thank you for answering these questions so thoroughly. I feel like I'm in a class right now and I'm learning some fantastic information because as a small business owner, sometimes we think, oh, well, we don't need all of this. But at the same time, there are different levels and scales of how much we can utilize and apply to our own daily, income generating activities or building business activities on a day-to-day basis. All right. So,
And I
our
100% agree.
oh,
These
good.
principles apply to the largest public company to a solo enterprise. That's one of the beauties, they can apply to everyone.
Yes, yes, yes. Especially for, again, someone like me where this vocabulary, I'm just learning, putting the pieces together, but it's such a comfortable read where I'm not intimidated as I'm reading your book. Sorry to keep going back to your book.
No, please go back to the book as much as you would like to, but I just wanted to thank you as well for something that you've done for me, and that is, you've prompted me to think about providing a service that's specifically for small business owners and perhaps those that are just getting started, where there would be a regular check-in with the business owners, check-ins that would say, what are your goals? And then later on say, how are you doing against your goals? All of this within an ESG context. So please stay tuned. Clear Strategy would like to be announcing that it's developing this micro service specifically designed for small business owners.
That is excellent. I'm so happy to hear because I'm eager to work with you.
And I with
Wonderful.
you to continue it.
Wonderful. So, do you have time for a question more or two?
Yes, of
All
course.
right. So, are ESG and sustainability sustainable?
Well, clearly my answer to that, Priscilla, is yes. But I think that behind your question, there might be some other thoughts. So let me bring those to the light of day.
Okay.
So you might, implied in your question might be the question of whether ESG is going to survive when it's under political attack in the United States, which
Yes.
it is currently. And perhaps as well, whether ESG, like CSR, corporate social responsibility, will go away because it evolves into something else. And I certainly think that it may expand, and it may expand by having additional letters tacked on to the E, S, and G. So in the book, for example, I refer to ESG-C for
Mm.
cybersecurity. But I would say that if we can see strands of what we call ESG today as far back as Judaic and Islamic law, then I have to predict that the essence of ESG will endure, that it will be sustainable no matter what we call it.
Understood. And cybersecurity, that is critical these days to have that protection, to have your work secure, to feel confident that the information that you're, putting out there is protected. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, and in fact, for many of the clients I worked with that are in the services industry, for them, professional services in particular, there are really no critical environmental issues, but there are critical social and governance issues, and one of the critical success factors for them is cybersecurity.
Mm, makes sense. Makes sense. Wow, a lot to think about here. All right. So, Joanne, how has clear strategy helped others on their path to sustainability already?
So I mentioned some of the work that I'm doing and I plan to be doing with clients in the future. A sweet spot in the work that we've done to date, and Clear Strategy has been around for about a year, so it's still a very new company, and we're learning and growing. But a sweet spot for us rather is planning. So strategic planning, of course, is something that we're passionate about, but also tactical and project planning because every strategic plan should imply tactical execution plans and likely project plans as well. And then goal planning, because once again, individual goals in an organization need to support the ultimate strategic plan of a company. And Clear Strategy is also adding to its advisory work, the consulting work that I've been talking about, training and assessments. And we've just added to our website some courses that are available. Those courses are not available online. Perhaps in the future they will be, but those are courses where we do have expertise in-house inside of Clear Strategy for delivering advice and training and guidance on the topics that we mention to your business, to businesses
Mhm.
about those particular topics.
That's phenomenal. So you're literally offering a comprehensive package with the book, the courses, the in-house um, strategist, correct?
I'm sorry, what was the last one you said,
Did you
Priscilla?
say you have an in-house strategist? Strategist? Am I
No, I
saying it
didn't
wrong?
say that. I'm not sure what to substitute for that, but that's not it. Well, the people that we have in-house, the people who are part of Clear Strategy, have
Mhm.
expertise
Oh,
in these
gotcha.
areas. I think that's
Understood.
what I was trying to say.
I think you said it, and I'm so excited that I'm just thinking about all of the opportunities that you are presenting here, and I'm just getting all, fired up to take that next step and learn more. So, one last question. How can the path
Okay.
to sustainability and clear strategy help me implement a results-oriented ESG program?
Well, I think it's important when you're getting started with ESG, before you get started with ESG, even before you commit to it, understand ESG and the ESG ecosystem. Who are the players? What are the other acronyms that are thrown around all the time? It's another one of those alphabet soups that
Mhm.
people often rightfully complain about. There are a lot of them to become familiar with. And this then would become the language that you can be conversant with so that you feel comfortable swimming in the ESG waters. So, the first thing that I would suggest is get comfortable with the ecosystem and the elements of the ecosystem so that you're comfortable, so that you feel part of that system. Then, once you feel comfortable, then you can take charge and say, who are my stakeholders?
Mhm.
You can identify them, and I'll help there. Everyone has employees. Even if you're a solopreneur, you have an employees because you have the owner's hat and the employee's hat. And that employee's hat is your employee stakeholder. Um, Identify your stakeholders and get insights from them, engage with them, talk to them, do surveys, and incorporate their insights into your planning process. And then the next step is to start planning your own path to sustainability. through the type of planning that I was discussing earlier: strategic planning, execution and tactical planning, project planning, and goals um, that will all support and sustain your strategy.
Oh, lovely. That sounds wonderful. Well, I appreciate you so much. I will definitely put all of the links to get in touch with Joanne, to learn more, to decide if this is a process that you're ready for. And she is wonderful to work with. I really enjoy working with you, Joanne. Do you have a final message for our viewers?
Well, my final message is thank you. Thank you for, I know that you're interested in Priscilla and her messages, but thank you for lending some of that to me as well, and so that I can benefit from the work that Priscilla has done in cultivating relationships with all of you. Thank you for this opportunity to, I hope, demystify ESG, to explain a little bit about where it comes from and what its goals are. And ultimately, I hope to make it accessible to everyone who's in business.
That is
So
the
thank you
key.
very much for this opportunity, Priscilla.
Beautiful message. And I really love that, reaching the small guys, reaching the really big guys. And they're starting this journey where it can only go up from here. So you're most welcome. It's lovely to chat with you. Do come back again and give us updates with your ongoing refinement and improvements. And we'd be happy to share everything that you're up to.
Thank you, Priscilla. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, Joanne. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye bye.